Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Today I wanted to make a quick video on a candle wax review. Well, a candle wax review video, that's what I want to make. But I have 3 or 4 different waxes, candle waxes that I want to go over and kind of share with you my experiences that I've had with them and which candle wax that I want to stick with from here on out. So for starters, I do want to go back and say that I know I did make a video a while back and I had came out and said that the C6 was going to be my candle wax. That was it. The hot throw was phenomenal. It was just, you know, a good wax that there's great jar adhesion, if I can get it out of my mouth. There's great jar adhesion with it. There's little to no sinkholes or anything like that. I never had to use a heat gun with any of the C6 candles I've made. A really good experience with that. I feel like if you're a person that is just starting out making candles and you're still in that 464, 444 stage and you can't figure out why your candles never smell, I suggest switching over to something like the C6. It is going to be a huge difference, and it's going to be, to me, it was a breath of fresh air because I'm like, oh my God, yes, I can make a candle that smells after all. It just really, really depends on what wax you're using and what wicks you're using, and making sure that you're using the right size wicks for your containers and the right wicks for your wax. If you have those 2 things down and the temperature, you're gonna make it, your candle's gonna be okay. That's how I think, okay? Your candle's gonna be okay. But you have to have those 3 things down. So I started using the C6, which is a soy and coconut blend of wax. So you're still getting that natural soy that you want, that natural clean wax with the coconut, because coconut is just as good as soy. But coconut works better with fragrance oils, and it binds to the fragrance oils better than soy does. So that's where your hot throw is coming in from. And never had a problem with that, really liked it, okay? Then recently, like maybe a month and a half ago, C3 came into my life. Now, I was kind of concerned a little bit because, you know, I used to be one of those people that did the 464, 444 for a while, and I didn't want to go back to that all soy wax not having a heat throw anymore. So when I ordered the C3, I wanted to try it based on the reviews, but I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. So I get my C3 and I made 9 candles with it, and I burned 2 of them because I was wick testing is what I was doing. I didn't put a lot of fragrance oil in there. Usually I go about 9.5% on my candles for my fragrance oil. I didn't put a lot in there this time because I was just doing the wick testing. I wanted to have something in there just because I didn't want to just, you know, I wanted to have some fragrance oil to see, you know, just whatever. And so I burned 2 of those candles the next morning, not even 24 hours after I made these candles. That's kind of like a big, I wouldn't say it's a big no-no, but you know, there was no cure time, but I wasn't really testing it for that. I just wanted to see how my wicks were burning with those size jars, and you know, that was what I was mainly looking for. I didn't expect to smell anything. Lo and behold, I lit 2 of those candles. I had one going on in the living room and I had one going on in the kitchen. Maybe about an hour and a half later, both of those rooms, as well as this room, which is right next to the kitchen, was filled with the fragrance of that fragrance oil. I could not believe it. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm walking around to everybody in the house. I'm like, guys, do you smell that candle? Do you smell what I smell? Can you smell? Oh my God, I can't believe I can smell that candle. I only have 7% fragrance oil in here. I just made them yesterday. They've not had any cure time whatsoever. So I could not believe it. And so the following day, remember I had 9 candles to work with. So I burnt 2 the first day, and I think those lasted about 2 days. And I think it was the 3rd day, I tried 2 more, and it was just the same with each candle. So I have older boys. My youngest son is 17, and the reason why I'm telling you that is because I gave both of my boys a candle. I put it in their room, but they're old enough they can handle a candle, okay? Please don't put candles unattended in your children's room. My children are 17 and 23. I trust them with candles. Just putting that in there, okay? Gave them a candle, each a candle. I walk into their room later on in the day, and the entire room was filled with that scent. Now their rooms are smaller, okay? It's not as big as a living room, but it was nice. Like, I walked into blueberry cheesecake is what I did. I'm like, oh my God, this smells just like a real blueberry cheesecake. So that was my experience with the C3. Needless to say, I had luck with every candle that I made. I had, again, great jar adhesion. I had very few sinkholes in the top, maybe just like a little bit of bubble here and there. No problem with that wax ever, at all, okay? I have had orders where I have gotten an order on one day and I made the candles the following day and I shipped those candles out the next day after that. I noticed that even the scent got stronger with the candles even as it cured. The first day that I burnt those tester candles for the wicks, they smelled phenomenal. They smelled better than any candle that I made with a C6 that had been curing for 3 weeks had. They smelled really good, as if they had been cured. As they sat longer, they even got stronger. And so what I noticed is that I was able to drop down to 7% fragrance oil with my candle making. Do you know how happy that made me? Because fragrance oil is not cheap. I buy it in the 16-ounce containers, and they're about $20 a pop. And whenever I do an order, I get at least 4 or 5 of them. So you're looking at $80 to $100 every time you're ordering supplies just on fragrance oil. And I put 16% fragrance oil in my wax melts, and so that really digs into my fragrance oil. So it helps greatly, just going from 9.5% fragrance oil down to 7 or 7.5. So big difference in fragrance oil, and the smell is great. They smell better, okay, at 7% with a C3 than they do at 9% with a C6. Put it that way, okay? There's something about that C3 for me. I call it my magic wax. That's what I have coined it as, my magic wax, because I can't say enough good about it, okay? It's just a phenomenal wax. However, I ended up buying it's a slab of IGI6006. Now the reason why, okay, is because I wanted to get another order of the C3. I was out and I wanted to order more. Anybody who makes candles in the community, you've probably heard of, there's the California Candle Supply Company, there's the Flaming Candle Supply Company, there's Candle Science, there's Lone Star, there's quite a few companies out there that you can order your supplies from. Well, I typically use the Flaming Candle and Candle Science. I have ordered from California Candle Supply, but not very often. In fact, I've only used them once, and it was for a fragrance oil that I couldn't get at the other two. So typically I like Flaming Candle and Candle Science. Never had a problem with Flaming Candle. Their customer service is great. Their products are great. Good quality wax, good quality everything. I've ordered jars from them. These here are their Oxford large jars. It's a pale pink. You probably can't see it very well, but this is a white distressed wooden lid. This is a C3. So very nice jar. Got that from the Flaming Candle. The only complaint I have about Flaming Candle is that they're a little bit slow on their delivery of your order. So if you're needing wax or fragrance oil quickly, it's not going to come quickly from the Flaming Candle. It's just not. It takes them a while. I mean, I understand that they're a big company. Maybe they have a ton of orders, but it takes a while. I mean, you're looking at about a 2.5 week wait once you order your supplies. So I wanted this wax quickly. And unlike the Flaming Candle, Candle Science is very fast. So you can place an order, and I swear to God, if the next day is a work week or a weekday, they're going to send you that confirmation email telling you that your order has been shipped. So they're very fast. You get it within a week's time or even less. So I wanted to go on to Candle Science and see if, to basically see if they had C3. what I found out is that they used to supply C3, but they no longer have C3. So they have other waxes. They had an IGI, I think it was a 4,000, I can't remember what it was, but it was a, I want to say it was a 4,000 something, but I can't remember the number that was attached to it. And then they had the IGI6006, which is what I bought. So I read the reviews, and I wasn't too happy with having to buy that. They used to sell the C3. They no longer sell the C3 for whatever reason. So I was kind of caught in between this. Okay, do I just leave here and go back to Candle or Flaming Candle and wait 2.5 weeks for the C3 because I know that works the best? Or should I just try this IGI 6006 and see if that works? Looking back on it now, I probably should have just backed out of that order and went to Flaming Candle and waited the 2.5 weeks for the right stuff, because I ended up purchasing the IGI 6006 and it was not as successful to me or for me as the C3 is. It wasn't a horrible wax, but it was different. First of all, it came in a slab, which I don't mind getting the slabs, but I do like the flakes, and the C3 does come in the flakes, so it's easier to pour and it's not a mess in the kitchen. On candle making day, I have shit all over the place, so I don't need this big old 10-pound slab of wax sitting on the counter where everything else is. So I'm like a little iffy when it comes to the big slabs. Second of all, I will say this. It was I'll give it a positive really quick. It is the most beautiful wax I've ever seen. It has this white, luscious, creamy color to it. I can't even explain it. It is the prettiest wax, especially in a jar like this one here. Oh my God, it is just the most beautiful white, creamy. This is not IGI, by the way, but in a glass jar, it's a beautiful wax for a glass jar like that. Very nice color. However, I made 9 candles with that one as well. Every single candle, I had to use a heat gun on my candle because I had sinkholes the size of pennies on the top of my candles. Could not believe it. I just was like, oh my God, if I do a batch of candles and I make 20 or 30 candles, I might get like maybe 4 or 5 that I need to use my heat gun on. I have never made a batch of candles and had to use my heat gun on every single candle that I made. I had to use my heat gun on all 9 of them. And they were tester candles, and I still wanted to use my heat gun because I don't like the look of holes in my wax. And number 2, I still wanted to see what they look like once I reheated them. Now, one of them had to be reheated twice. The hole was so big, I had to reheat it twice. And after the second time, it was okay. But I don't like that because that's very time consuming. If you're making 30, 40, 50 candles, that's going to be kind of hard to go back and reheat with a heat gun 40 or 50 candles. It's just going to take forever. So I didn't like that aspect of it. Another thing with that wax is I found out that you have to work with it very quickly. I did read that in the comments or in the reviews of it, and I found that to be true. So it is a very... you have to keep the temperature hot, and you have to pour almost immediately after stirring your fragrance oil in there. So you have to pour it. I think they recommend that you pour it at a higher temperature than normal, at least what I consider normal. I don't ever pour any higher than 175. That's like the top temperature that I'll pour, okay? So typically when I do my candles, I heat it up to about 195, and then I let it cool down to about 180, 178. I'll add my fragrance oil. I stir for 2 minutes, and then usually by that 2 minutes is up, it's down to about 170, and then I just go ahead and pour, and I have no problem with that. This one here, I had to heat to almost 200. I had it on inside my Presto pot, and so it was close to 200. And then I poured it out into my pouring pitcher, and I added my fragrance oil immediately, which was weird for me. And I was like going against my grain on this, but I did it. I followed one of the review, testimonial suggestions, and I did it that way, and poured it immediately. And so, like I said, when I made the 9 candles, I did 6 of them my method, and 3 of them the method from the reviews. And they both turned out the same. The only difference is that I noticed when I poured at a lower temperature, doing it my method, it got very, very cloudy when I poured it. So when I was stirring it and I'm looking and I'm, waiting for it to get down to 170, it was like, I had never seen wax that cloudy. Like, it really was different for me. I've never seen that. When I poured it at the higher temperature that was recommended in the reviews, it looked just like regular wax. So, however, the end result was the same. So I don't think that the temperature matters really. Whatever method you're using or whatever method works for you, that would probably be okay. Pouring it at a high temperature and pouring it at the normal temperature that I work with, either one, they both came out the same in the end. Okay, it looked different while I was pouring it, but that was it. That was the only difference. So I did do 2 burns the next day, which I was just testing for wicks. No hot throw. So immediately I was just disappointed because I'm like, okay, this is not, I got really, really spoiled with the C3. So no hot throw on day 1, no hot throw on day 2, no hot throw on day 3. It took about till day 4, day 5 before I started to smell those candles. Now I will say this, and I don't know if I said this already. Yes, I did. I was talking about how pretty it was. It is a very, very nice looking wax. But the sinkholes is too time consuming in my opinion. And the hot throw is probably maybe compared to maybe the C6. It is there now. So when I burn these candles, because I've still got 2 of those tester candles left that I'm still working on, I can smell them now. Okay, but it's nowhere near what I was getting with that C3. So basically I've got a whole slab and a half sitting on the floor over there that I won't use, and I'm waiting on my order from the Flaming Candle, and I'm not going to make any more candles until I get that C3. So from here on out, at the beginning of the video I told you I was going to tell you which one I'm using from here on out. The here on out candle wax is going to be the C3. I am not going to use anything else. I have tried multiple different waxes. I know it works for me now, and I'm going to be sticking with that. I don't care if it takes a month for Flaming Candle to ship me out my product. I need to stick with something that works because I have luck with the C3. And so that's what I'm going to stick with. Now, I did want to talk about one more other wax, and that is the Melt Tart and Soy Wax that I get from Flaming Candle. Now, for those of you who don't know, I like to use a Tart melt wax, which basically, if you're not familiar with making candles, you use that for this, okay, your wax melts. So what it does is that it hardens up, and it gets a lot harder than a regular candle in a jar, because you want to be able to pop it out. Okay, so you want it to be able to come out of the clamshell. This is usually called a clamshell or a tart mold. So you want your wax to harden up so that it can pop out like this, and you can just pop it into your wax melter. Or some people use them for molds. They make all different goody things with their wax. So you want something that's going to harden up. So anyway, the day that I ordered the IGI6006 from Candle Science, I also ordered a 10-pound bag. No, I take that back. I ordered 20 pounds, two 10-pound bags. Okay, so that's how they came, of the Tart melt wax or the Tart votive wax. Did not expect any issues with that at all, because it was the same Tart votive wax that I ordered from the Flaming Candle. Shouldn't have been any different. Shouldn't have been any difference whatsoever. The only thing that was different was I was getting it from a different candle supply company. That's it. That was the only difference. So I get it, and I make a whole bunch of wax melts that night, and I've got all these samples over here. You can see that shelf right there. That is all my candle wax melts. So I've got a lot of those. I made probably about 20 of those with this particular wax from Candle Science. So I noticed right away that there was a slight difference. It looked the same in the package. Okay, it came in a flake form and everything looked the same. The label was the same except it said Candle Science instead of Flaming Candle. So I noticed right away that there was a difference in the smell. It wasn't as strong as it usually is when I make wax melts. Mind you, I use 16% fragrance oil. You can get away with using a little bit of a higher fragrance oil when you're doing wax melts because they don't come into contact with the flame. So you can push it up a little bit more. So using 16%, I can usually smell them that night. When I make my wax melts, I'll lay them out and they lay out open. And then it only takes a little while for them to be able to set so that you can close up your clamshell. I'd say a couple of hours and these things are ready to close. But like I can smell this already. So usually when I go to close them at the end of the night and I go to put my labels on, I can smell them. I don't even have to have it up to my face. I can smell it. So as I was doing that this night, I couldn't smell it. So I'm up here and I'm looking at them because I like to look at them, make sure that there's no cracks or anything like that. I couldn't smell the scent and I'm like, So that was red flag number 1. Now, red flag number 2, the next day, I go to examine them and I noticed there was a lot of frosting. I don't like frosting on wax melts. I dye my wax melts. I don't dye my candles, but I do my wax melts. And, having frosting on a white candle is one thing. Having frosting on a blue or red or purple or green wax melt is another. And so this here is my Tart votive wax from Candle Science, the blueberry one or the blue one. And this here is my cashmere plum, which is purple. And this is the Tart wax that I got from Flaming Candle. So now you can see, okay, there is a difference. This is smooth and shiny. This has a frosting spot here. This has a frosting spot here. Okay, there's frosting all along the side. There's frosting here. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. This one here, this is the one that I get from the Flaming Candle. No frosting. This is an old wax older wax melt, by the way. It's been sitting there for a good month or two, so this had some shelf time. If there was going to be any frosting, it would have been on now. This here has only been made for about a week. Okay, so this has already got frosting. It's probably going to get worse. I don't know. But turning it over and seeing that was really, And the reason why is because, number 1, I don't like the way it looks. But then number 2, I take them out of the containers. And when I take my photos for Etsy, I flip them upside down and I take them like this because I like that look in my picture. So it's kind of hard to do that when you have this big white frosting patch on one of the cubes. I don't like that. So that really, I think that one upset me more than the IGI6006 with my order from Candle Science. So I have never had a problem with Candle Science. I get a lot of fragrance oils from them. They have great customer service. But for wax, I won't be purchasing wax from them anymore. If it's wicks, if it's fragrance oil, I don't have a problem. Or even if it's jars. This jar here, this is from Candle Science. It's got a cute little twist lid. It's a 12-ounce candle. So if it's something like that, if it's a jar, a wick, a fragrance oil, I don't mind getting it from the Candle Science, but I'm not going to be buying wax from them. Now, if they supplied the C3, I'm not even sure that I would buy that from them because the Tart votive wax that I purchased is the same from the one that I get at Flaming Candle, but it's not the same, obviously, because there's something different about it because I don't get frosting on my wax melts from the wax that I get at the Flaming Candle. So there's something different about it, and the scent is not the same either. It's not that strong scent. Even with 16% fragrance oil, I can still barely smell it. So I feel like I've got about 20 wax melts over there that I've got to go through, and I've got to take them all down because I don't feel comfortable selling a product that doesn't smell like it's supposed to smell and has frosting all over it. Now, frosting does not do anything to the melting of it. It doesn't have any effect on it whatsoever. It's just unsightly, okay? So you can still use it with the frosting. It's not a big deal. It's just more cosmetic, okay? But I don't like the frosting on my wax melts. So, and that's not even the main problem. The main problem is the scent. I'm not getting a good scent that I get with my other wax melts from the Flaming Candle. So, in summary, from now on, I'm going to be sticking with, for my candles, C3. Hands down, the best wax ever. And from now on, I'm going to be sticking with Flaming Candle for my Tart soy wax melt, Tart wax melt. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about, my Tart wax melt. No, my Tart melt wax. Jesus. But anyway, all wax is getting purchased through the Flaming Candle. That's where I'm sticking, okay? I'm gonna be patient. I don't care if it takes 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get my order. I'd rather wait and have what I want in the end and be happy with my product than get it really quick and not be happy and then be stuck with, 40 pounds of wax that I'm probably not gonna use and a bunch of product that I have to take down. So I'll probably end up just keeping the wax melts for myself. They do have a little bit of scent, but they don't have the scent that I like, in my wax melts that I sell. So I'll probably end up keeping those for myself and replacing them in the inventory. And it was a lesson learned. So anyway, I hope this helps someone save some time and money. Candle making is very expensive. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of testing. You're testing wax, you're testing wicks, you're testing jars, you're testing everything all the time. If you get a different jar, you got to test out a bunch of wicks again because you don't know if the wick that worked in the last jar is going to work with this new jar. So, or how many wicks you need. You need 1, 2, 3. So there's a lot to it and it's costly. So I just wanted to put this video out and save somebody some time and somebody some money. Maybe, hopefully, if you're new to making candles, just try the C3. Just try the C3, even the C6. Even the C6 is better than a 464, 444 in my opinion. So try the C3. Okay, try one of these companies for their fragrance oils. The fragrance oils are wonderful. They're high quality. They're really, really, I have had no problems with the Flaming Candle or Candle Science with their fragrance oils. Very good fragrance oils. And you might, kind of have a better outcome if you're struggling like I was in the beginning with a hot throw. So anyway, I'm going to stop it there, guys. I feel like I started rambling here towards the end like I always do. I don't know. I'm sorry. All right. Have a wonderful night, guys. Be kind to one another, and I will see you the next time. Thank you.